Excel accounting practice problem. Deposits from undeposited funds. Get ready because we're going to excel. Here we are in our Excel worksheet. In prior presentations, we put together the worksheet from a blank sheet, now adding transactions to it. If you have access to it, 2 tabs on down below, Example tab and Practice tab. Practice tab starting out where we left off last time. Example tab, in essence, being an answer key. Let's take a look at it now. In prior presentations, we entered transactions that were increasing the undeposited funds, a clearing account that's going to be holding on to the funds before we put them into the checking account, a necessary process in practice, but one which we often don't see in just normal accounting when you're learning debits and credits in a school setting, given the fact that we just deposit things into cash and don't really think about that kind of transfer or how those transactions are going into the checking account so that they can most easily be matched out to what happens on the bank side of things, so we can reconcile the bank account and our checking account with the bank reconciliation process. So in accounting software, we'll often have the use of the undeposited funds to deal with just that problem. Oftentimes that problem will happen in an event. For example, if we're getting a bunch of cash deposits throughout the day, and then if we were to record them directly into the checking account as we receive them, and then go to the bank at the end of the day and deposit them, then we might have the same amounts that have gone into the number in our books versus what the bank has, but the format of them will differ, making it more difficult to reconcile what we have to the bank. We'll have to add up a bunch of numbers on our books to amount to the same number that has been deposited on the checking account, therefore being on the bank statement. It's a similar process that will be a problem in credit cards, where the credit card company might group the credit card transactions in such a way as they deposit them into the bank account that we want to match on our side. If we don't, the reconciliation process becomes very tedious. You want to make the bank reconciliation process as easy as possible. The way to do that is possibly to use an undeposited funds as the clearing account, work with your system as to when you make the deposits, and work with the credit card companies to determine how they're going to be grouping the deposits so that you can match that when you make your deposits into the checking account to make the bank reconciliation as easy as possible. So let's go back to the practice tab then. Let's do some cleanup work here. We're going to start out putting our cursor on the skinny column and do some hiding. Put our cursor on the skinny and then go all the way to the left. Right click on those cells and hide those cells. Then I'm going to take my ending balance here and make them our beginning balances, so we can just be focusing in on what we're working on, copying those, and we're going to be pasting them to the beginning balances. Right click and pasting them 1, 2, 3. Then I'm going to delete the cells in the middle so that we'll be just looking at the things that we're doing at this time, and then we'll have the detail still in the GL. So let's go back on over. We're just going to be taking this amount from undeposited funds, imagining now that we're going to put them into the checking account, but we're going to do them in 2 separate transactions, imagining the grouping for whatever reason needs to be grouped in these 2 ways, because that is how they're going to be on the bank statement, because either that's how we went over to the bank and deposited them in one lump sum, or because that's how the credit card company would be depositing them. For example, let's see what it would look like. The transaction's pretty straightforward here. So we would just simply be increasing the checking account and decreasing the undeposited funds. So a debit to the checking, a credit to the undeposited funds. We're going to imagine the first grouping is going to be for the 7571. So I'm just going to type that in, imagining that that is the amount that we're going to be depositing into the bank account. First for the first group, and that's what's going to appear on the bank statement. I'm going to indent this item, indent in the alignment section, negative of that amount for the credit, and let's see what it would look like. We're going to post this out to the checking account up top, so we're in W4, W4 equals the 7571, going from the 60,956 up by the 7571 to the 68,527. Then we're looking at the undeposited funds right underneath in W4. Notice in the example tab I had undeposited funds a little further down because I was kind of mirroring what happens oftentimes in software like QuickBooks, where they might put the undeposited funds right not next to cash like it should be for presentation purposes, because the account type will be different from a functionality standpoint within accounting software, not acting just like a checking account, meaning it's not going to be tied to financial statements or financial institutions. That's why it's not in the cash area sometimes in some software such as QuickBooks. But for reporting purposes, you would think that you would put it right underneath the checking account. So you've got that kind of inconsistency for that reason. But we're going to put it up here for now, and that's how it will probably be on your example tab as well to mirror this. Then we're going to be crediting the 7571. So we're taking the undeposited funds from 2871 down by the 7571 to the 20,500. Let's post it now to the trusty GL checking account first. That's going to be the top account on the trusty TB, the same on the trial balance, and the general ledger. Same on the general ledger. So now we're going to say an AA13. This will be equal to the 7571, bringing it from the 60,956 up by the 7571 to the 68527, taking us out of balance in the general ledger, matching us out to what is on the trial balance. Let's post the undeposited funds. Second account, undeposited funds, is now going to be 120. We're in cell AE10 equals left to the wall, picking up the 7571. We now have the 28,071 down by the 7571 to the 20,500. 20,500 matching what's on the trustee trial balance, and we are back in balance in the general ledger. So there we have it. We're going to do this just one more time, now taking the rest out of the undeposited funds, the 20,500 remaining, transferring it to the checking account, but doing so in these two separate transactions, which we expect to appear in that format on the bank statement. So this one we're imagining on 2021, same transaction, which is going to be the checking account on top because it's debit, undeposited funds on the bottom, because that's where we put the credits, indenting in the alignment section, indentation. And this is going to be for 20,500. 20,500, that is. There's the debit and there's the credit. Checking account on top. Let's go ahead and post that. We're doing this just with the keyboard. I'm not going to use the mouse at all. Mouses are for losers. Super cool people just use the keyboard. So I'm going to say F2 plus F2. And then scroll back down and we'll pick up that 20,500 and enter. So now we're up to the 8927. We're going to do the same for the undeposited funds. So scrolling up to cell W4, W5, F2 plus F2, scrolling down, picking up that 20,005. Now we're back down to zero with the undeposited funds, which is what we expect given the fact that undeposited funds is a clearing account, which should only go up temporarily and then back down to zero quite quickly. Then we're going to be posting this to the general ledger. So here's the checking account. Let's go on over to the GL on 121. We're in cell AA14 equals that 20,500. So we're going from the 68,527 up by 20,500 to 8927. 8927 matching what's on the trial balance, general ledger out of balance by 20,500. Then we're looking at the undeposited funds because that's where our focus is. That's what we're on right now. We're focused with intensity on the undeposited funds. This is on 121. And we're on AE11 equals left to the wall, picking up that last account, 20,005, taking the 20,005 debit down by the 25,000 credit to zero, and that zero matching what's on the trustee TB, also bringing us back in balance in the GL. No effect on the net income down below. We're just taking it out of one basically cash account, a holding account, and putting it into the other. You might be asking, why didn't I just put the whole amount from the undeposited funds into the checking account? Because we want to see this detail down here. Would have resulted in the same ending point, yes. It would be more simple from a journal entry standpoint, yes. But we would have then only one lump number, and what I'd like to do is be able to compare these two numbers to what we expect to be on the bank statement when we reconcile, which we expect to have two numbers. You might also say, well, why would I need to do that? I can just deposit this in at $28,075 and I see these two numbers on the bank statement, I can see that that adds up to the $20,071. That's easy. That's not a problem in the bank reconciliation process. That is true if that's the case and you only have two numbers. But oftentimes, if you're in a system, many accounting systems, if you're getting cash receipts, you might have hundreds or thousands of cash receipts that you are then going to take to the bank and deposit in one lump sum that you would have to then add up these deposits in order to add up to one lump sum number on the bank statement. Quite tedious. You don't want to have to do that. Same with the credit card bunching. They might be bunching hundreds and thousands of transactions as they then transfer it over to your bank statement, which will result in you having to tie these two things out, making the bank reconciliation process a tedious process, which it should not be. It should be an easy process. You make it an easy process by making the functionality of your accounting such that you're able to deposit your deposits into the checking account in a way that will match what's on the bank statement. You do that either by using an undeposited funds and tying that into when you take the money to the bank, and or using undeposited funds and tying out or working with the credit card companies to make sure that you're able to line up and match the deposits that are actually going into the checking account. So this is where we stand at this point in time. This is the numbers that we have on the trustee trial balance that you could check out. No effect on the net income.